back to Miss Cindy's Kitchen. I'm going to show you what we're having for dinner tonight. We are having homemade hamburgers. And I don't know about you all, but when I buy the pre-made hamburgers, they kind of taste like hockey pucks because there's no additional, flavors or anything to soften them a little bit. They just taste like, I don't know. But they're not one of my favorite things unless you get them from a good hamburger restaurant. But anyway, so make sure you like and subscribe and share to your friends and give us your feedback. And I'm going to show you how I make hamburgers. And I have already got potatoes in the oven to go with our dinner. But you've seen me make potatoes before. And I also have some buns that I forgot to pull out of the freezer. So I'm toasting them in the oven along with our potatoes. That's why it's beeping at us. And as you've seen before on my other ground beef recipes, what I do is I take a bulk pack of meat and break it up into meal-sized portions, typically about 2 pounds a piece, and put them in a Ziploc bag, press it flat with a rolling pin, and then it freezes faster and thaws faster. So I'm using actual latex gloves because the little flimsy food handling gloves, we determined on a previous episode that those weren't even worth the cheap price I paid for them. So I always put an egg in to bind the meat, and then anything to wipe my hands on. Anyway, and then to flavor and bulk up the meat as well as bind it, I put in some breadcrumbs, probably about a half a cup per pound. So this is probably a total of about a cup. And then another way you can stretch your meat is to use quick oats. Anything to add to the meat that will kind of bulk it up a bit. And then some chopped onion. I like onion burgers. And some wood-fired garlic seasoning. I'm going to put a fair bit of that in there. Probably a good couple teaspoons. I don't want to get it too much flavor. And then McCormick Grill Mates hamburger seasoning. It's a really good combination. And again, there's a fine line between well seasoned and overwhelming seasoned. So before I start scooping up the hamburgers, I'm going to pull the buns out of the oven. I know, sounds like a pregnancy announcement. Pull the buns out of the oven so that way they don't get too done. I want them warmed up, but not burned.
At least here we don't get a gender reveal party.
Alright, so I am going to mix this by hand. The best mixing tool available to you is the ones connected to your arms. Just make sure you have very clean hands or use gloves, but you always got to start with clean hands. Every time you switch tasks in the kitchen, wash your hands thoroughly, because if the pandemic taught us anything is that everybody assumed nobody knew how to wash their hands. And so we got lessons on that repeatedly.
So this is just to avoid like cross-contamination using your mixing tools on other recipes?
Yeah. So you got to keep clean hands. So now that the meat is well mixed, so I think we've got enough seasoning in there. I can actually see it through the meat here. So, and just pick up, I'm purely mixing these and shaping these by hand. And what you want to bear in mind when you shape hamburger patties is look at the size buns you will be using, because there's going to be a fair amount of shrinkage in the hamburgers. In that as the fat cooks out, the meat will shrink. So you don't want to make really thick, small patties that literally look like hockey pucks or racquetballs. You want to spread them out a bit. One, they cook better, and when they're done cooking, they will fit the hamburger bun better. Because I know some people that make their hamburger patties really thick. They look like balls that are just like very lightly tapped down, and you end up with a big lump of meat in a big flat bun, and it just isn't very aesthetically pleasing, and it makes the toppings fall off.
So what's your recommendation as far as the kind of meat for a burger? I mean, is it...
You need some with fat in it, like an 85% meat, and that's typically what Costco has in their bulk, their regular ground beef selection. But again, you could use any kind of meat. It's just that turkey and chicken tend to be much softer and have less fat. So you have to take that into account when you're adding your other ingredients. They might need more binding to hold them together. But I prefer beef for hamburgers. It just tastes better. Turkey and chicken are good for things like casseroles or spaghetti sauce and those kind of things. But when you have meat that's going to be the center of attention, like as a hamburger, then I think beef is the best. But again, that's personal preference. Everybody's got their own opinion. But again, we're starting out with about that big of a lump of meat, about the size of a racquetball, smaller than a tennis ball, because it may not be easy to see on camera, but round it and then flatten it. So when the patties are slightly bigger than your palm, then they're about the right size. And it doesn't have to be perfectly shaped. You're going for flavor and consistency, because a flat hamburger patty is much easier to put toppings on your burger. If you want to have things like romaine lettuce or iceberg lettuce, whatever kind of lettuce you want, or heck, you could even have spinach on your burger, whatever you choose. A flat burger is easier to dress. Dress as far as add condiments, not put a suit and tie on. So, and again, this is about the size ball of meat I'm making. I don't have a kitchen scale to tell you the exact ounces or approximations, but I go by shapes that people can easily understand. The shape of a racquetball, the shape of a tennis ball, and the palm of your hand. Those are tools that most people can easily relate to. Not to be biased, but most people have hands attached to their bodies, so they can say, well, it's about the size of my hand, so that's a good diameter for a patty. Because when these shrink, they'll be similar in diameter to the buns that we are using. So I'm going to continue to shape the burgers while these ones cook. And I'm going to... Now I'm making a mess. Oh well. We have a dog. She's very good for the cleanup crew.
She's outside right now. But...
Yeah, she's enjoying the sunshine before the next storm hits. So we have had the wettest winter ever. And now that we're at St. Patrick's Day, we thought the weather would be settling down a little bit, but it's just taking a breather for a few days. Then it will start back up again. So...
You realize technically it's spring?
I think it starts in like 4 days, but I think, you know, I consider March more spring than winter, because March sometimes contains Easter, which is a spring holiday. But then again, summer vacation often starts before summer technically starts, so it's all subjective. So I'm going to make this one a tiny bit bigger simply because it's not enough to separate into two. So I'm just going to flatten it. Alright. I am making a big mess on the floor. Dahlia is going to be in giddy paradise when she comes back in and goes, oh my gosh, you left me scraps on the floor. So I'm going to take my dirty gloves off. And then I'm going to wash my hands before I work on the rest of this hamburger dinner. Oh, I forgot. The trash can, we have to hide it from the dog, so it's not where I can reach it at the moment. So let me just wash my hands. Now, we got a nice spatula. We're going to check and see how the hamburgers are doing. I have them on a medium heat because they're about ready to turn over. I'm going to flip. Look at that golden brown goodness. And you want to have your hamburgers like on a medium heat because you want the inside to cook along with the outside. Some people get a little zealous with their hamburgers and they turn the heat up too high, so you end up with a burger that's done on the outside but raw in the middle. And I don't think that hamburgers taste very good sashimi style, so I wouldn't want them raw on the inside. So there's our hamburgers. So we're going to pause for just a sec while we get out our other toppings we're going to have on our burgers. And I'll show you the toppings that we like on our burgers. But then again, it's personal preference, so we'll be right back. And we're getting ready to switch to our second round of burgers. And I'm going to show you guys a cool trick I saw online as far as degreasing a pan. Tongs, paper towel. Pretty basic kitchen equipment. You've got some absorbent paper towels. You can go around and just lift some of the grease off your pan. And that helps reduce the spatter factor when you're making hamburgers.
Oh yeah.
Because it gets a lot of the excess grease off the pan. So it's not an exact science. This was just a cool idea I saw, and it actually does work.
Does a good job.
So, and then also if you're using meat that you've sprinkled seasoning on, it's going to leave kind of like a crust on your pan. So if you're changing batches of meat, you want to be able to have a clean spot to put your meat down that doesn't have burn marks on it or anything. So
that's actually a pretty cool trick.
yeah, I figured I saw it online, and if you all missed it, now you've seen it. And it's one of those TikTok hacks that is actually worthwhile. Some of them make you scratch your head and go, huh, isn't that special? But, or in the South they would say, well, bless her heart. Because you know, bless your heart is kind of like, poor thing, she just doesn't get it.
Yeah.
But anyway, we decided, because we didn't have enough cheese for our burgers, to heat up some chili and make some chili burgers.
Ooh.
So, and again, this is just some plain old Hormel chili, warmed up, nothing fancy. And this is a meal that we're making after work before we start on the second chapter of our evening. So a good dinner doesn't have to take too long. And cooking doesn't have to be complicated as long as you've got good equipment and some simple knowledge. And I've gained a little bit of knowledge in my years, so I thought I'd impart it all to you guys that cooking can actually be fun and easy. And in these steep food costs, actually it's getting to be more economical to cook at home. Because now that restaurants have to compete with the expensive food prices, their prices are going up to the point where people aren't eating out as much. So that's affecting our restaurants, but you know, you can learn to cook gourmet at home too, and it doesn't have to cost a lot time-wise or effort-wise. So,
Well, you know, I've been reading your comments. Some people were actually saying that maybe you should start your own kitchen.
now, I would start a kitchen if I had somebody to clean up after me. I spend about 60% of my kitchen time cleaning up.
Yeah, but you would hire help for that, wouldn't you?
No, as long as it wasn't too expensive. You know?
Yeah.
Nowadays, people want to get money for free. They don't want to get off their butts and go to work. I mean, granted, there's people that can't work for whatever reason, but honestly, ever since they started giving out all that free cash during the pandemic, people are like, that's cool, I'm going to stay home too. And I'm like, you know, you got to contribute to society some way. Right now, Dahlia's smelling the hamburgers. So, we're going to let these cook. And we're going to get on with our hamburgers and chili burgers tonight. So, but thank you again for joining us. And I look forward to seeing you again soon with watching one of my videos. And have a great weekend.
Thank you for watching Miss Cindy's Kitchen. To get more recipes like this one, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications when new videos are uploaded. Share it out to your friends, family, neighbors, and leave us a comment to let us know how this recipe worked for you. And don't forget to hit that like button. Again, thank you for watching Miss Cindy's Kitchen.